Hi, everyone. Welcome to day one of Spotlight Pathways. I hope y'all are really excited. If not, you will be, because today we have two very special guests. They're both in the engineering track in university, and they're both graduates from Pierre Trudeau High School. So shout out to my students and friends from PedHS. But with enough talk, let's get down to it. Samuel, why don't you briefly explain who we are, what we do, and introduce our guests?
So very quickly, for anyone who isn't familiar with us and our previous webinars, we are Illuminare, a student-run company participating in the Junior Achievement Company program. So Junior Achievement, or JA, is a free high school program that provides us with the mentorship, skills, and materials to market and start up our own company. So this year, we created the Kaizen Project, a podcast that focuses on career exploration and improving student life. So every week, we invite guest students, such as today's webinar, to provide students with helpful advice and insight. So if you enjoy today's webinar, please be sure to check out the Kaizen Project on YouTube and Spotify.
I'm now going to talk about today's webinar and how it will run. Now, we'll briefly start by introducing our guests and getting to know them a bit. And then we'll be jumping into an extended Q&A session. Starting from now until the end, type any questions you have for Miles and Jason into the Q&A box. You should be able to see it in your Zoom chat. And upvote the questions that you would like to see answered personally, because that's how we're going to decide the priority of which questions are going to be answered first. And once and for always, no storing the chat room. Now, back to Samuel.
Great. So starting from right now, you guys can start rolling the questions in. We're going to have a pretty long Q&A section. So as Wenyak said, please upvote the questions that you would like to see answered. So how about let's just start off by having our guests really briefly introduce themselves. So do you guys want to explain who you are, what program you go to, and why you chose to attend this program?
All right, I guess I could start. Hi guys, my name is Miles, Miles Aton. I go to U of T for engineering. I'm currently in the first year TrackOne engineering program, so it's undeclared. I'm planning on going to mechanical next year for as my specialty. And I chose to go into engineering mainly because I just really like building things. I'm someone who gets bored really easily, and I want a job that can really challenge my brain and keep me interested and have me working with my hands, especially. So that's why I've kind of wanted to go into mechanical engineering for a while. And also I picked U of T because I kind of just wanted the city. I knew that no matter what, engineering was going to be hard, and I would get really, I might get stressed out and tired. So I was thinking at least U of T has the city to keep me interested.
Right, so my name is Jason. I'm in my second year at software engineering at the University of Waterloo. I chose software engineering really because for the longest time I had sort of an interest in tech. I've always loved working with computers and programming. I chose Waterloo in particular actually because I had the opportunity to work with a couple of professors in the cybersecurity field. So when it came time for me to make a decision on where I wanted to go, I ended up deciding to go with Waterloo because of that professor there. Yeah.
So why don't we actually start by, after speaking of that, describe the typical day in your life and what you guys do in like the classes and just student life pretty much in general.
Sure. So typically in your first year, you're looking at a schedule of around 8 to 4 in terms of classes. You'll have a 30-minute to 1 hour break at around noon, after which typically you would be working on your assignments or your quizzes. The assignments and quizzes, unlike university, they're not sort of like one-off things. These are weekly assignments, weekly quizzes, so they're going to happen every single week. So typically you'll be preparing for those assignments most of the time. Because of co-op program, you'll also be preparing for interviews, you'll be applying to jobs, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's sort of a typical day in my life, you know.
Yeah, and for me, it's pretty similar, but there are some differences. It's probably around the same amount of class time. There's lectures, tutorials, and practicals, and just yeah, I'm going to classes. For me, it's not necessarily like the noon break. Sometimes I'll have classes from like 9 to 3, and then like I just don't know when to eat, and I'll just maybe eat during class or just not eat until after. But in university, it's kind of different because there's not necessarily as much assigned work, because in high school they really hold your hand like, hey, to get prepared for this test you're going to have to do all this homework. But for us there's not really as much assigned homework, and it's more of like, hey, you can choose to study for this, but if you don't then you'll fail. So there's a lot of independent studying within that time, and yeah, that's whenever I have breaks I try to catch up on any missed homework, and even though it's not necessarily forcefully assigned, I'm working on that in between.
Sounds great. Why don't you guys take us briefly from your high school journey and put ourselves back into the shoes of our viewers here and describe who you were, what kind of things you did, and just you in general.
All right. I guess I could start. I mean, in high school is pretty fun. But grade 12, when grade 12 hit, I was stressed out, man. Like, I mean, I still had my fun things, right? I was running a club, AMC, Acoustic Music Club, really into music, as you can see behind me.
I was there.
And yeah, I mean, I was keeping myself busy, but yeah, in grade 12, first semester, that's when really the stress hit, because like, hey, I want to go into engineering. It's not an easy program to get into, especially with this school I want to go into. It's going to be quite difficult. So I really had to step my game up. I had to become self-motivated, like a lot throughout my life. It was kind of parents saying, oh, you better study. And I was kind of studying out of fear of like my parents being angry. But then that can only go so far, because you can only go so motivated, because when you're motivated by your parents, you're only doing the bare minimum to keep them happy, right? So I had to be self-motivated to get into the program that I wanted. So I just had to study hard. Just honestly, like, through a lot of the time, for like, oh, here's this one easy trick to be able to get good marks. But honestly, it's just like, hey, just go to the library and study for 8 hours. Like, that's how you're going to get the really, really good grades. And I had to do that to get into the program I wanted. And then, yeah, just kept working hard. Second semester, I'm telling you, when halfway hit second semester, like my productivity level went from like here to like absolute rock bottom, which is not necessarily the best thing, but I was burnt out. Like, guys, make sure that in high school you still do things that keep you happy. Like, thankfully I had my club and stuff and my youth council that I was co-chair of outside of that, because you're going to go crazy. Like, if you don't keep, like, have things to keep you interested and keep you alive, because you don't want to burn out in grade 12.
So that thing that you talked about though, like in grade 12, second semester, when you just like died down in productivity, what's that called? Like, wasn't there like a term called like senioritis or whatever?
Senioritis.
Senioritis.
Yeah, I mean, senioritis hit pretty early for me, but like, I'm telling you, when senioritis hit for me, it like really, really hit, because once I had got into U of T engineering, which was the top program I wanted to go into, I was done. Like, my conditional was like 15% under, or like 10% under what I had. And I was like, hey, I could fail all of my exams and I would still get into the program. So I told myself, okay, I'll study a little bit for my exams, but I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna be honest, don't do what I did, but I didn't study for a single one of my final exams. And all my teachers were confused, because I was getting 90s during all the tests up until that. And then just like, I was getting like 50s in my final exam, because I just didn't care anymore. But yeah, thankfully I got into the program, and then like I transitioned into that. And yeah, I had a lot of fun before Corona. I was having a lot of fun on the St. George campus.
Nice. So for me, grade 12, it was a little different, because I ended up doing 4 of my top 6 courses back in grade 11. So grade 12, sort of like first semester, I was really only carrying up 2 of the 4 or 5 courses I had. That being said, I was doing a lot of DECA. I was part of student council, so it was still pretty busy. So Miles mentioned senioritis. Yep, so that was a thing for me in second half of grade 12. I just stopped caring. So that was sort of what it was like in high school, really. And then university came around and, turned my world upside down.
What about before that? What'd you do in like grade 12 and grade 11? Like, you were part of DECA, right? At Trudeau, we all know like the top DECA people, and like you were part of it, right? Hey, I think Miles can attest to that, Samuel, right?
Oh, he's a legend.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, he's a legend.
You raised the glass of stone face.
So DECA was pretty big for me. It was pretty much the thing I did for all 4 years of high school. I started in grade 9, and I stuck with it all the way until grade 12. So yeah, like it was, you can tell from my university application, it was one of the things I talked the most about. Like, it was a profound impact. It was great. So yeah.
Speaking of university applications, we're just
Mhm.
going to go off the Q&A list.
Of course.
So how did you make your application stand out?
I think what I really did was a lot of what I think I did. I had a part-time job in grade 12, and it had to do a lot with teaching kids how to program. So I think that might have made it sound. Again, I can only hypothesize. I don't know anyone in the admissions council. So yeah, so I think a lot of my extracurriculars and maybe the fact that I got a lot of my courses done earlier might have helped, but like, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and for me, like, I mean, of course you have to get the grades, right? Like there's no denying that. You have to get the grades to be able to at least have a chance. But past that, they really want to see that you're like not a boring person. Because I think what universities found is that when they were admitting people purely based on the highest grades, they were getting a bunch of people with zero social skills, zero any like ability to do things practically. They were able to write tests, but they couldn't like build anything. They couldn't use a screwdriver. They were completely like incapable of doing anything other than just writing tests. And I think that's why recently they've really amped up how much they care about extracurriculars and how you can speak. Because yeah, sure, you can get 100% on all of your tests, but can you do an interview? Like, can you get a job? Because they want people who exit their universities to get employed. And if they're not getting jobs, then that reflects badly on the university. So they need people who are able to do that. So what they did is that I think for both U of T and McMaster, I had to do a video interview. It wasn't really an interview. It was like kind of they asked questions and then they recorded, and you only had one chance. And that's where you had to show that you're charismatic, that you were confident, and then you had those skills. So during those things, I really put a lot of emphasis in showing kind of who I was as a person, and that I had speaking skills, and that I was more than just someone who can write tests, right? And of course, on my written stuff, I kind of wrote extensively about my extracurriculars, which is super important. Don't sacrifice your extracurriculars for an extra percent, because like they do matter a lot. They need to see that you're a well-rounded person. Of course, it matters that you have things that are like concentrated towards engineering, but there aren't as many of those opportunities. So even if you have things like music, like my president of acoustic music club, like that has nothing to do with engineering, but I still put it.
And I'm gonna agree with Miles. Like, it's really important that you show you're a well-rounded applicant. I spoke extensively of DECA, even though business had absolutely nothing to do with software engineering. So, so yeah, that's a good point. And also, Waterloo does do video interviews. They're optional, but they're optional.
Yeah.
Would you still recommend going for it though?
As in video interview, like
Yeah. Like it's
yes.
optional. Okay.
Yeah, definitely yes. Like
it's
they
optional
can
because
only...
if you're not willing to do it, then it shows that you're not that interested in getting into the program. Like if you want to get into the program, you have to do everything you can to get into it.
And it can only help you at the end of the day. They're not gonna unless you like swear on camera or something. It's only gonna boost your application a little.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, in terms of the grades and stuff, like I understand there's a bare minimum that both of you said. What was the admission like minimum average-ish for like Waterloo and U of T?
So I think there's been a bit of a bias to sort of like, there's been a common conception that, to get into Waterloo engineering, you need like a 96 average. Like I think those numbers are a bit skewed up. Like definitely you need a low to mid 90 average to be competitive. But I think at one point it's going to be, they're going to be looking more at your ECs, they're going to be looking more at your interviews and really that extra percent or two. So yeah.
I think this one's more for Jason. How is software engineering different from computer science?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good question. Software engineering, it focuses, essentially if we think about sort of the levels of development, so you got the computer science sort of like at the very high level. So this is your Java, Python, so on and so forth. And then we can go all the way down to designing an actual CPU. Software engineering, essentially, it encapsulates the entire stack. So in my second year, I actually had a course on computer architecture and design. First year, it was, a lot of stuff with regards to, programming in C, C++, data structures. So essentially think of software engineering as a mix between computer science and computer engineering. So you're going to be taking a lot of courses. I think the biggest difference that's going to matter for you in the first year is the fact that you don't get any electives. You're going to get a set of courses given to you by the by the faculty, and that's your law. You can't change anything. That's it. Yeah.
For Miles, do you want to kind of explain the differences between, like, you want to go into mechanical engineering, so do you want to kind of explain the different types of engineering?
Okay, yeah. So the thing is that in the first year, for U of T, you can pick your stream right away. You can pick mechanical, EC, which is like electrical and computer. You could pick mineral, civil, all those different things. But there's also this thing called TrackOne engineering, which is where you don't pick your stream right away. It's just a general first year. And the reason that we're able to do that is because no matter what stream you go into, all the courses are more or less the same. There are like some slight differences. For example, if you're in mechanical, you'll be learning Python for programming. And if you're in electrical and computer, you'll be learning C. But there's these small differences that you can switch anyways. And what TrackOne does is that it just offers you a chance to be able to go into any program you want for second year. But the thing is that it is hard to get into out of high school. So I've always wanted to go into mechanical, and I knew that. And I kind of had the misconception that all of the first year courses were exactly like carbon copy the same, no matter what stream you went into. So I was like, oh, okay, then I'll just pick TrackOne because it gives me the choice. Why not? Then I found out that there are slight differences, and I had to switch my C programming course to Python because the default for TrackOne was C. But I hope this isn't getting too confusing. I'm explaining it properly. But basically, yeah, you can pick either you can kind of try to get the higher grades in high school to be able to get the first year to figure out what you want to go into and then get into it, or you can just pick right away. And me getting into TrackOne was a little bit harder to get into than me getting into mechanical, right? Because they're kind of taking a risk because they don't know the numbers and they don't know what program I'm going to go into going to second year. Yeah, it's kind of weird. You guys can probably like read into it, but you can go into TrackOne. What you can do is you can rank when you apply. You can rank which programs you want to go into. So I just put TrackOne number 1, mechanical number 2, electrical number 3, and that kind of thing. But no matter what you get into first year, it shouldn't matter too much because you can kind of swap over year 2, provided you get a certain minimum grade. So first year is generally kind of the same.
Can you apply to different like programs, like departments, like not just like in engineering? Can you apply to like, I don't know, like arts and sciences?
Yeah, you can apply to as many things as you want. It's just $50 per application, right? So like you're not going to be able to pay $50 and then apply to like 100 different programs at U of T. You just have to pay the $50 for whatever you want. So of course, like if you want to do sciences, don't want to apply into into reporting, right? Just do kind of within the field that you want. Don't kind of overestimate your abilities and don't underestimate your abilities, right? I still applied to like 9 universities. Thankfully I got my top choice, but my top choice, U of T, came in like late June. It came really, really late, or like some like super late day like that, right? So thankfully I had McMaster secured for a good while, and I was happy with that choice. But then thankfully U of T was my top choice, and I got that later on. But yeah, just apply for a lot. I applied for one program that wasn't engineering. It was McMaster, like something to do with tech, but I forgot what it was because it was a lower admission, just in case I didn't get into any of the engineerings. But yeah, you can apply into as many as you want.
All right, sounds good. We have a question here from Scott Houghton. What is the environment like at your school? Some people believe that Waterloo and U of T are very intense and work you very hard, and that the environment is not very good. What do you guys have to say about that?
Okay, I'm just gonna say I am like way less stressed in university than I was in high school. High school was 500 times more stressful than university, for me at least. That's my experience. Because here's the thing, I don't have to get into university anymore, right? Like high school is, oh my gosh, I'm getting into my program. That's going to define my life. Oh my gosh, everything, like the world's like tumbling. Like I don't know what's happening, but I'm already in my program, right? And I know for a fact, if I just stay in the program, like I don't fail, like, which is like, it's not easy to not fail, right? It's still hard, but I know that I'm capable of doing it, right? And to be honest, if I get a 60% like average, like, or a 90% average, no matter what, if I do co-op like between third and fourth year, and basically everyone gets co-op, like if they apply for it, like I think like 95% or something. If you get co-op and graduate from U of T engineering, you will get a decent job. Like, unless you're completely socially inept, like you will get a job. So that's kind of what's relieved stress for me. Environment wise, I think it's pretty good. It's like, there aren't many people trying to one up each other or be competitive, right? There's, I know in high school, it felt like there are limited spots within each program. And like, oh, I kind of like, me getting to this program means someone else doesn't get into this program. But for us, like, none of us are really trying to do postgraduate. We just want to get jobs. So there's a lot of collaboration. It's actually really good. Work is hard. It's definitely a lot more than high school. In grade 12, you think that, oh my gosh, it's the most work I'm ever going to do. It's going to be more work, right? There's going to be less assigned work, but it's going to be harder. Like, if you don't study, then you're just going to fail. So it's a lot of self-motivation.
But why do you say that it's like less stressful for you in university now?
Because the stress wasn't due to the workload for me in high school. It was due to the like possibility of not getting to the program I want, you know?
Oh, okay.
And there's no program that I need to get into anymore. I'm already in the program that I want to be in. Yeah, so that stress is gone for me. I mean, that's personally, some people are stressed, but I feel like people don't find it that bad. Like, they get into it and they're like, oh, like everyone's gonna be depressed. It's like, you get into it and you're like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but like I can do it. Like, I got into the program, right? So I can do this. I'm prepared for this. Mm-hmm.
Right, got it.
Yeah, so I think at Waterloo, there's definitely sort of a almost sink or swim mentality. A lot of the profs just sort of go, here's a page full of questions, start working. That being said, with regards to sort of like, intensity and like environment, like Miles said, like, you're not competing for a program unless you're going to postgraduate studies. So, as long as you maintain a 60s average, you're fine. They're not going to throw you out or anything. It depends on sort of like who you're associated with, like essentially like, what group of people you hang out with. Because there's definitely people in my program that are super intense and, they get a 70 and they're crying over it. Whereas me, I get like a 60 and it's like, hey, it's more than the 40 I got on last week's quiz. So, definitely, I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on you. Like, are you able to sort of, it's very situational. So I think that's the case. Definitely there is going to be a bit of pressure in terms of workload. There's going to be co-op and, but again, I can't make a blanket statement about the environment.
Yeah.
So another, do you want to talk?
So yeah, I just one thing I want to make clear, just in terms of like grades in university, you really have to drop your expectations. Like, really have to drop your expectations. Because, I mean, I was in high school thinking anything under a 90 is just like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. And in university, like, I've gotten like 60%. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh, I didn't fail this. I'm so happy, Like, and it depends on the course, of course. Like, some of them I'll be like it's not crazy to get like an 80% or something. But most of the time, like, you pass, you're like, nice. And they kind of show you this, like, it's kind of good and bad at the same time. They show you the mark distribution of like how many people got within each, like 500 people got within a 60 and a 65%, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of have like the curve of like how the grades are distributed. So sometimes you're like, oh, the top 5% is like between like 70 and 75. And you're like, oh, this is great.
Okay.
But like, if you're also on the lower end, it kind of feels bad because you can directly see you got a worse grade than everyone else. And I guess that kind of contributes to a bit of stress, but it's not too bad. Like, it just get used to expecting lower grades. If you go in with the same mentality as high school, you're going to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. I just want to quickly add a caveat to you just need above a 60. If you want to work as a research assistant or if you want to go on exchange, you do need an average above 80. So, just so that, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Right. Depends on the program and what you're gonna work at, right? Like the average requirements, whatever it is.
Yeah, I haven't personally heard anything about the 80% thing, but it could be just Waterloo.
I think it's for the Faculty of Engineering, you need an 80% and above to work as a research assistant.
Okay.
Like, otherwise, they just literally won't pay you. So, you'll be working for free, but hey.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, what do you believe is the weakest aspect of your program?
I could probably take this one. I think the weakest part of software engineering is it's very rigid because it's an engineering program. So it's an accredited program. We have to take physics, we have to take chemistry, And I think really when people start looking at the jobs software engineers get and the jobs, people in CS get, they come to the conclusion, the guys in computer science are getting the same jobs as we are getting, but they do have to work. Like, they don't have to take chemistry, they don't have to take physics, they don't have to take stupid electricity and magnetism. So I think really that's going to be the weakest aspect of software engineering. You don't really get much of a say in what you want to do. It's especially in first year. It's this is your stuff. Have fun.
I think the weakest thing about my program, I think it might just be university in general, is that like you guys are like in high school, like people complain about their teachers, but it's so much more comprehensive in high school and they try to teach stuff. They're like, oh, here's a concept, right? This is what it is. This is how you use it. Here are a few examples. And then you're like, okay, cool. I can replicate that. But university is like, all right, theorem number 1, gas, like blah, 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 like theorem number 2. And they like list off 10 theorems that make no sense and use like all this language that you don't understand, all these abbreviations. And they're like, okay, now try it. And it's a lot less clear. Like the path from kind of trying to, a lot of time is spent figuring out what you don't know. It's not even like, hey, that's a concept that I need to work on. It's like, I don't really know what's going on. There's a lot of like, you're kind of forced to be self-reliant, and that could be a good or bad thing because it helps teach you, but it's just the teaching style, for me at least, is a lot harder to grasp than at least what I'm used to in high school.
Yeah, and speaking of profs, I think you really do need to be able to sort of pick up on your professor's teaching or testing style. For example, some professors, they'll give you a question packet of 10 questions, they'll choose one of the questions for the weekly quiz. Others, they might actually care that you sort of understand the topics and you can apply it beyond what's in the textbook. So you just have to pick up on that, and yeah.
Do universities look at grade 11 grades?
Okay, so like if you want early admission, then of course, like yeah, generally early admission you need grade 11 marks, but early admission, like people see it as like, oh, this holy grail is this like amazing thing, but honestly it's just getting it a bit earlier, right? Like that's all it is, right? So if you want slightly earlier admission, then sure, right? But when you're getting like when you miss early admission, it's not like you have to reapply for the later admissions. It's like a rolling admission. So you're a candidate for each one, right? So if you're stressed about your grade 11 marks, like, oh, let's say they're too low for the program you want. Okay, just like wait another month for the next admission, right? And then you'll have it. So they do matter if you want early admission, but other than that, like they don't matter that much. So like don't stress over it, right? Don't stress.
So other than early admissions, like what do they look at then? Like if it's like regular.
Grade 12. Okay. Like so for my program, it's how there's like the top six things. For me, it was just the top 5, right? And the top 5 was all like pre-chosen courses. So generally, like, and especially some of the arts programs, they're like, oh well, you have your top 6. One of them is English, and the other 5 is whatever you want. So you can take a bunch of like easy courses, like I'll take leadership. I'll take like all these like fake courses to get like high 90s in. And then you can get into the program. For my program, it was top 5, and there was advanced functions, calculus, physics, chemistry, and English. So like all the 5 hardest courses in high school, and then you had to get like around like a 90 average or higher to get into the program. So yeah, that's how it was for me. I'm sure it's something similar for you, Jason. I think it's top 6, right?
Yeah, top 6. There's one wildcard slot that's and it's the same. So English, advanced functions, calculus, chemistry, physics. And with regards to grade 11 marks, I think, again, it's great if you want to use it for, getting in the first couple of waves of acceptances. But, if your grade 11 physics marks a bit dodgy, like I'd say don't stress too much about it. Because for the final decision, they're going to be looking at your grade 12 mark. And, and they are going to take into consideration. It's not like if you got like a 70 in grade 11 physics, it's going to automatically disqualify you from consideration. Like, no, they don't do that. Like,
Like, just, yeah, don't stress about it. Like, honestly,
yeah.
if you're great, even if you get like a 51 in grade 11, that won't take away from, like, let's say you get 51 in grade 11 physics and then like a 90 in grade 12 physics. They won't be like, well, he got a 90, but I mean, last year it was a little iffy. Like, they won't care about that. It's just like, if the grade 11 marks aren't it, then they'll just look at the grade 12 ones as a replacement.
Another question coming in is, how did you prepare for the video interview? Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
okay. For me, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say something. For me, so I did the U of T one, I think, before my McMaster one, and actually I did a lot worse on my U of T one than my McMaster one. Because what I did is I over prepared so much. See, I had a friend who did it before me, right? Who did the video interview before me, and then she kind of told me like what the questions she got were. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll kind of just prepare that. And I was gonna I put like a few notes, like, okay, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say this. And I'm like, okay, well, point form is enough. So I just ended up writing like a whole script for all the questions. And then when it came time, I was like preparing, I was like remembering those things, like, okay, I'm gonna memorize this, I got this. And the questions came and they're completely different. And I was like, oh my gosh, I spent 5 hours on these perfectly tailored questions and they're different. And then I was like, okay, either I can make up something that actually is tailored to the questions that were asked for me, but then I stress out, like, I don't want to waste this material. So instead of trying to like come up with a question that come up with an answer that fit the question, I ended up just using the material that I already wrote and tried to bend it a bit to fit the question that was being asked. And it was really messy. So then for my master one, I was like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna like not prepare anything and I'll just answer it. And that turned out way better. I think that over preparing for those questions and trying to predict exactly what kind of thing is going to be asked is like the number one mistake I made for the U of T one. And that probably delayed the amount of time like that I got into it because of that. But yeah, there's going to be some weird questions. There's going to be like, I think one of the ones I got is like, oh, you're trying to survey like some kind of, okay, it's not the one I got, but another one is like, oh, you want to paint someone's house. Like, what are like 3 factors that you should know? And they're like, oh, well, weather, like how far away, like they just want to see that you can think outside of the box and under pressure. So don't stress about it too much. You can make up some stuff. If you just say it with enough confidence, you'll be fine. Yeah, just don't over prepare, but don't under prepare either.
Right. So I think for me, quite frankly, for the video interview, I cheated a little because I was part of DECA, so I had experience, making stuff up on the spot and making it sound good. That being said, I think a lot of it is really doing the practice video interviews quite a bit. It's also like getting able to, for example, if you have your laptop's web camera, if you set it down below your head, it's a lot of stuff about just small things. Like, I had my laptop put up on a box so that, the angle of the webcam looked decent for the video interview. So I think really doing the practice video interview, seeing how you sound, seeing how you look, it's a good way of ensuring things don't screw up for the actual interview. Speaking of McMaster's video interview, I wasn't actually prepared for it. I thought I was doing the practice one and it was like, you're going live. And I'm just like, wait, no. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I wore a bow tie for both of mine because I was like, hey, maybe the guy will just be like, hey, he has a nice bow tie, and just like remember me from like, oh, what's that one kid who like who applied with a bow tie on? I kind of like that kid. I'll accept him. And I just wanted like a little something to make me stand out, so I just wore a bow tie and suspenders, and I sat down like my dad's like very nice like chair and like tried to look all professional and have nice lighting. Like I just tried to do everything I could to make it as nice as possible. You know what? I can't confirm, but like I'm sure that he was like, he seems like a pretty cool guy, like I want him on the program because I mean at the end of the day, people aren't robots, right? People will be more willing to accept you if they like you, right? If you're like, hi, well, I am part of several extracurricular programs and like you're robotic, even if you have great stuff, they'll be like, this guy's boring, this guy's annoying, I don't like him. But if you kind of try to portray yourself as someone who's likable, then the person will be a lot more likely to accept you because yeah, like they want to accept people that they like.
Right.
And I can definitely agree with that. If you can say the most brilliant thing in the world, but if you put the guy to sleep, he's not going to hear it.
One other question is, what factors did you consider when choosing your program? What would you have wished to have known before applying? Do you want me to read it again?
No, I'm.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's a tough one, actually. I think, really for me, engineering was, it was something that was almost expected for me as a kid. I come from a family of engineers, so they were all like, "You're gonna do an engineering. You can choose which one, but you're gonna be an engineer." So yeah, I figured I'd do software engineering because I was programming, ever since elementary school, really. So programming has been a huge part of my life. So I figured software engineering, let's do it. What I wish to have known, I think really, I would have liked to have gotten a better comparison between software engineering and CS, computer science. That might have affected, what I would have chosen. I might have chosen computer science over software engineering, but that's just, coulda, woulda, shoulda,
Weren't you also like involved in like accounting and stuff? Like you were like very good, right? Why did you yeah?
That's actually a really good question. So I think my strength in accounting really came from more of my experience in programming. It was because it required a lot more analytical skills. I did actually apply for a lot of accounting programs. I applied for Waterloo AFM. Fun fact, they deferred me to math and CPA. Yeah, so but I think I mainly wanted to engineering. That was something I was passionate about. Business was something I was good at, but it wasn't necessarily something I 100% liked, if that makes any sense.
Miles?
And for me, yeah, factors, I mean, kind of, yeah, parents, like, of course I wanted to go into something that my parents like kind of like, not because like they're forcing me to, but just, hey, like, I could go into music, but I don't think my parents would be very happy with that, like the volatility of that. And I mean, of course, like at the end of the day, money, right? Like, like I could go into something that I enjoy, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna be sad if I'm broke. And I mean, just if I like it, right? If it keeps me interested, I need something that's challenging to keep me interested. I don't want to be going to something that is challenging, that pays well, but if I'm bored, then I'm not going to be having fun, and it's not going to be good. Like I want to go into a job that I'm innovating, I'm creating stuff, right? That keeps me interested. I want to have fun working, and I felt like engineering would be the perfect balance between like something that's stable, something that pays well, and something that is enjoyable. And sorry, what was the other part of the question?
What would you wish you have known before you went into engineering? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like everyone calls U of T like, oh, it's U of Ters, you're gonna be super sad if you go there. And that scared me a lot. Like I was so scared going into it. Guys, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like I wish I'd like just calm down a little bit. I was so stressed out in high school about like, oh, how am I gonna end up, blah, blah, blah. Like I wish I had just known to calm down.
I just want to ask though, like, there's a saying that like U of T is like the University of Torture, and like there's like 50% dropout rates and stuff.
It's not.
Like,
it's literally.
Is it actually?
Literally, more than 95% of people continue from first year to second year. Engineering, right?
Actually?
Like, yeah, more than 95%, and the small percentage that don't are just switching to other programs. Like, oh, maybe engineering's not for me. I'm gonna go into business, right? So it's not like people are failing. Like not all those people are failing out. It's just people who realize that it's not for them,
Oh,
and
okay.
I think that's the biggest thing that because originally I wasn't gonna apply for U of T. At the beginning, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna want to die if I go there. I don't want to go to U of T. Then I went there. I was like, sorry. Then I spoke to one of like the recruiters, and they're like, yeah, like 95% go like from first year to second year, and like,
okay,
hey, if I can get into the program, that means I'm probably qualified to like stay in it. So the people always like to make it out to be crazier than it is. And I think that a lot of people also who like don't get into certain programs are like, oh, I didn't want to go into that anyways, and like kind of villainize the program. Like, oh yeah, the program it's everyone like hates their lives there. It's so bad. It's like terrible. Just
to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, exactly. I think that
Okay.
a lot of people have done that I've seen, like, oh yeah, no, I didn't want to go to Waterloo anyways. It's so boring. It's so stupid, right? Like a lot of
Oh yeah,
people
those are
have done
fighting
that.
words.
And it's not me saying it. It's not me saying it. But yeah, I'm just saying that, like, don't believe everything that someone tells you, especially if someone says it from like not a position of authority. If you just hear like your friend in grade 11 say, "Oh yeah, I heard that in U of T, like everyone like cries every day." It's like, don't listen to them. Listen to the people who know what they're talking about. Listen to older students.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool. Another question here is, what are your future plans after obtaining your degree?
Or like, what is your dream job?
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I'm working in the security field. So, I think probably a job as a security engineer would be my dream job. In terms of my future plans, I am considering doing a postgraduate degree. So, I think it depends on, what the market's like. Is my company going to, sorry, is my company going to pay me for a postgraduate degree, or is this going to be something I'm going to pay out of pocket again? So, I think it really depends. I'm only in second year. I don't really have the ability to say, this is what my future is going to be. But yeah.
I just want to build stuff. Like, I just want to build something cool. Like, it doesn't really matter too much. Like, I don't need to go to the most prestigious firm. I just want to get into something that I can build something that I find cool. And wherever that is, where that takes me, I'll go there. I'm going to be doing co-op between, like, it's a bit different between Jason and I, how co-op works. For me, it's like a full year between year 3 and 4. And almost 100% of the time, if you go and do your co-op proficiently, the company's going to call you back to work. Like, they're going to offer you a job, because, I mean, what would you rather have? Someone who like, it's just a random graduate with no job experience, or someone who's already worked 1 year at your company that you've already poured all the training and resources into? Of course, that person, right? So everyone that I've heard from who's done co-op gets called back from that company to work for them again. And if I get a co-op that I like, then my plan after high school, after university, is probably going to be back with that company that I've already spent a year working for.
Cool. Another question here is, which high school courses or experiences prepared you the most / best for engineering?
Not that many for me. Like, okay, physics, like, people in PET, right? I remember purely Trudeau physics. It was hard. Like in retrospect, it wasn't that hard, but like at the time, it was hard, And like, I remember trying to get tutors. I went through like 3 tutors because none of them could help me because my work was too hard for them. Like, these were like professional engineers and like that did tutoring on the side, and they couldn't help me because my questions were too hard, and I was going crazy.
How hard were the questions?
Just, if you guys know McCumber and Baker,
Oh yeah.
if you know, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, honestly, but now that I look back on it, like, physics, I think, was the thing that helped me the most, because kind of the skills and just how rigid they were with like notation and everything, it really helps you, because the professors, they don't care. I'll put a vector sign on this. I won't put a vector sign on this. Doesn't matter. Like they're very kind of flippity floppity with that kind of thing. But in high school, I feel like they taught me really, really good basic skills that were able to carry you over. Calculus, of course, is going to carry over to a certain degree. It gets way hard though. Calculus is my worst course. It's like super, super hard. I did great in high school, not so much in university. But yeah, I think it's like mainly physics that help. But other than that, like, there's not a lot that you can do to prepare for university. It's like, it's very different.
Yeah. So I think physics did help me quite a bit for university, not really because of the content. Like, the content in covered degree 12 physics was covered in the course of a week at my lectures.
Yeah.
Like, the rumors are true, but I think really what it helped me was, getting used to, getting shocked by your mark. First quiz I did for grade 11 physics, I got a 78 on, and I was expecting an 80 something. So, I think that's where it really helped me. In terms of experiences, I'd say Shad Valley helps a lot. It's because in first year at software engineer, you actually have to do a project as one of your final deliverables. So I think Shad Valley, they have the whole final project thing. So it helped me, work with the team, get people, think outside of the box. So yeah.
Nice.
So you talked about Shad. This year it got canceled, but for next year, do you recommend people to go?
Yes, yes. I would say even if I'd say really it's just the experience that's really worth it. Like it's something you should go for just the experience. You're going to be on a university campus for 1 month. It's a great time. Like I still keep in contact with some of the people I met there. So
Amazing. All right. Question from Ryan Lin. What skills do you wish you acquired before going into the program? Need some time to think.
It's a pretty broad question.
Yeah. So what skills do you want?
I think it's just like studying habits and I don't know, whatever skills, I don't know, like social skills or whatever. Like, what do you guys think? Like,
Yeah,
that
okay,
would
like the things I'm gonna say are kind of things that you've heard 100 times before. Everyone's like, "Oh, I have this one trick. It's time management." You guys have heard that buzzword like a million times.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember hearing that, like, I kind of overlooked it. It's like, it's important, time management. Like, you have to do it at the end of the day. Other skills, I mean, like social skills, like I guess, like it's not really something that you train. It's something that you just like just do, right? If you want to be able to finish all the assignments on time, there's a very, very low chance that you'll be able to do it just sitting down and doing it all by yourself, right? Or like all just understanding everything. I have like a different people that I go to for like each subject. I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to do this lab whatsoever. Well, there's these 3 guys that I met like 4 weeks ago who are really into programming. I'm gonna hit them up. Like, just you'll have to meet people and get to know them, but they're all skills that like aren't really things that they're kind of natural. Like they're not really like specific things that you train for, right?
Okay.
yeah, I think social skills would be the big one for me. Because I remember getting scared off by everyone at the orientation sessions. They were super outgoing, they're super loud. I'm just like, please stay away from me. I don't want to talk to you. You guys are scaring the shit out of me. So I think really social skills are going to be the thing that because again, as Miles said, it's really hard to study alone. Like in first year, I tried studying alone. It went really poorly. In second year, what happened was I got a couple of friends together, and what we did was we actually did sort of mini lectures for a topic. And I think that really helped. So really, social skills, being able to get together with some like-minded people is going to be something that's worthwhile, especially in first year, because that's when nobody knows what's going on, and it's a good way to make friends.
So I think a lot of people like our attendees here, they're actually going to U of T and going to Waterloo. Do you want to talk a bit about like residence life or like the different residences on campus?
Right. So So residences on Waterloo, I'm not going to say they're great. They're not the Ritz-Carlton for sure. I think there are quite a few old buildings, but don't fall into the hype of oh, this building's got air conditioning, because you're going to be there for fall and winter. It's going to be cold as hell. You're not going to need air conditioning. Like, what do you want? But if you do want to apply for a nicer res, I recommend Claudette Miller Hall and Mackenzie King Village, just because those 2 places are near the good places to eat and not near the questionable places like Rev. But yeah, that's sort of residence life in a nutshell. It's going to be loud. I lived right by the common area in my first year. It was terrible. Friday nights, everyone was hanging out. I'm just like, please shut up. I want to study. But it's going to be an experience. I'd say, if you can live on campus, live on campus. Some people decide to just rent a place by the university. It's not the best. You're pretty isolated up there.
Yeah, I would say definitely don't go try to get an apartment or something like that. It's first year residence experience is something that you're never going to be able to have again, and it's something that like I found to be amazing, and it was so much fun. The way that so for U of T engineering, they have you do this thing where you kind of rank which residences you want to go into, like even before you get accepted. You do it like, oh, I want to go to university. I asked like my friends who were in university, like, oh, which ones I want to go into. At the end of the day, just throw all the engineers into Chestnut. Like, no matter what you put as your number one, you can put Chestnut as last. They're gonna throw all the engineers into Chestnut, and there's nothing that you can do about it. If you go to U of T and you want to do residence, it's either Chestnut or like one of those third-party ones, like Campus One or whatever. But they're gonna put you in Chestnut, and it seemed scary at the beginning. Like, I didn't want to have to share a room with someone where it's like my bed and then their bed. Like I was like, hey, that's kind of weird. Like I don't want to do that. But like honestly, I'm kind of happy for it. Like I was trying to avoid it. And I remember like finding out about, I ended up getting randomly assigned to the all boys floor, which was like the most like it's the most depressing thing that I ever saw. I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll go to university. I'll meet some girls. It's like, no, like you get the all boys floor and you get put in with some really large, muscular Turkish man. I was like, oh, wonderful. This is great. But that large, muscular Turkish man became one of my best friends. And like, honestly, like being surrounded by just all engineers is so much fun and it's so convenient. Like, oh, I don't know something. Well, there's thousands of engineers around me to ask. Like, there's not really any point where you have no one left to ask because, oh, your roommate doesn't know, go next door. They don't know, go to the other next door. You know, like you're just surrounded by resources. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, you don't really have a choice. Chestnut, you're gonna get chestnut.
So this is a very specific case. So some guy asked, he says, I'm a grade 12 student who has offers to TrackOne U of T, computer engineering at Waterloo, as well as McMaster, Western, and Queens. So he says that he knows that you guys are biased, but how would you compare these schools and what do you think are the most important factors when choosing between these programs?
I mean, like, I'm not trying to diss like any of the other universities, but generally like, on a resume, U of T Waterloo generally looks the best. Like they're kind of seen as like the top tier of engineering. Like everyone else will still be able to get the same jobs. It's just like at a first glance, I would say to pick Waterloo or U of T. Depending on each one, it's up to you. Depending on like what you're more focused on in terms of factors. Like for me, I viewed like city life as like very important. And that's kind of what veered me more towards U of T and being close to home. But yeah, like I can only speak for myself. Of course, like if U of T TrackOne is one of your choices, like I'm going to be very biased. Like U of T TrackOne is amazing. And I'm having so much fun in it. I meet so many cool people and having the flexibility to go to whatever you want. Like they have seminars, like all the different programs and like how they are, what they actually mean. Because when someone says mechanical engineering, you're like, okay, yeah, cool. What the heck is that? You know, like electrical and computer, like what the heck is that? Like, what are you actually doing? And like civil, okay, you guys build bridges. Like, is that it? Like, they really, really go through each one of the programs because in high school, when you're picking your program, you really don't know what the heck like it's about, right? I like still don't really know like what do engineers actually do? Like, I'm still like discovering that, and I think TrackOne helps you kind of figure out what you actually want to go into because there's a lot of people who transfer first like after first year and it's a lot harder to do it if you're not in TrackOne because you need the certain like minimum grade requirement and if you don't hit that then you're stuck in the program that you're in.
Yep. So I actually do want to say one important thing about Waterloo's computer engineering program. So if you're looking for a work in sort of software development, I know a lot of people do go into ECE or computer engineering and think they can pivot to a software engineering role. It's not the easiest thing to do, mainly because in computer engineering, your programming software development is placed as it's a low priority. You learn more about the hardware side of things. So yeah, that's just a general word of advice I'd say. But aside from that, yeah, definitely U of T, Waterloo. I think the three schools, U of T, Waterloo, and McMaster, those three are very strong in engineering. So definitely, like I think at that point, take a look at campus life. Take a look at campus life. Ask some people that are in the programs. But yeah, congratulations on the offers, by the way.
So I think we're going to wrap up very soon, but we have a few more questions. So how important is it to participate in Waterloo contests for admission?
Contests. I personally never participated in any of them. I did a few. I did terrible on those. I don't think it really affected my performance, but like I know for a couple of my friends who did really well in the contests, it might have helped them. It definitely did get them a couple of scholarships. So, if you're thinking of contests, don't really think of them as an admissions booster. Think of them more as a scholarship booster, if anything.
It's hard for us to answer that because we're not in the admissions team. Like,
Yeah.
we don't really know. I don't really know that much why I was accepted. I know what I put onto my personal resume and like got accepted for, and I think it's the same for Jason. Like it's hard to know to pinpoint exactly because they're pretty secretive about their admission techniques.
Yep.
Are there any other questions, Samuel?
We're just filtering through
Okay.
some questions because we're about to wrap up soon, so we're just trying to pick some quick questions.
Sounds good.
So,
All right.
Excuse me.
how do you foster relations with your professors?
I don't. I don't really talk to them. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if you want to, I know how to, but like, I personally don't. Like, you can go to like, I think office hours is the number one. Like, office hours are basically just like your teacher just like is in like an empty room, and you can just go up and ask him questions, and like sometimes, like a lot of the time, like 2 people show up to that. So it's like it's pretty intimate. There's not a lot of people. If you want to go, you can go, and you can really get to know the teachers. But personally, I don't really make that much of an effort to.
Can you explain what practicals and tutorials are? So we're kind of getting into the range where we're just firing questions at you. So
Okay, yeah.
just go answer.
Right.
Do you want to answer that? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what a practical is. That's not really much of a thing at Waterloo, so I think you might be able to answer that better than me. But tutorials generally are sort of held by teaching assistants. Most of them, they'll go over some of the concepts from last week's lectures, and then they'll typically give you a quiz at the end of it, just because they want to.
Yeah, and practicals are basically just labs. So like you just go in and you just actually do stuff. So whether it's like, oh, here's a breadboard and here's all these machines, and try to like, do you have like a lab where you have to do the pre-lab and like all those stuff, like just like you did in high school, or it's like a Python practical where you go in, like you have to write your code and kind of submit it by the end, that kind of thing.
Do universities give you options for co-op, or do you have to search for them on your own?
At Waterloo, they do give you options. They have an entire job board where you apply to them, and then they have their own internal process for co-op. So yes, they do give you options. You're not really expected to go out and find your own.
Mm-hmm. Same thing for us. We have like a program. I think they hold your hand a little bit less than they do in Waterloo. I think in Waterloo they guide you more for co-op. For us, they still do, but it's not like as expected as it is in Waterloo. I think like a lot less people do it. I mean, still the majority of people do co-op, but less people do co-op in U of T than they do in Waterloo.
Do AP classes or AP courses help you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
They're like, honestly, like people are like I know a lot of like parents see AP or I'd be like, oh wow, these guys, they're smart. Like this must make them like smarter. Okay, AP completely like, sorry if you did AP and like you put in the extra work, but honestly, it's like a lot of the time you just end up getting a lower grade, and then like people don't really view AP as higher than normal grade. Like
I'm pretty sure that like in at U of T they do take transfer credits for AP though, right? Because like I looked at like econ and psych, they take psychology AP as like first year undergrad transfer credit.
Do they? Okay,
so you don't have to take
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Definitely engineering, they wouldn't do that.
They would not.
Okay.
There's no way that like a grade 12 course is going to be equivalent to a first year engineering course. Maybe in the arts, but definitely not engineering.
Not at Waterloo either?
No, they won't take it.
No way.
No. You're locked in first year. Like you don't get a choice. There's no way out. Don't even think about it. But in terms of IB, I think they have the conversion system. So that
I'm not 100% sure. I just know that IB doesn't help you with your application as much, but it helps you with your first year because a lot of the content is like the same. My like Turkish roommate, he did IB, and like there are like 3 courses where he's basically already done them. He was like, yeah, it's easy. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but like, please help me. And so like, if you did IB, then you definitely have a leg up in first year, but not really for applications.
Yeah, I think they're mostly for a university in the US because like when you apply to the US, they're gonna look at your entire like portfolio and your transcripts and your ECs and stuff. And then AP is gonna be like, whoa, you did advanced placement and like stands out more. And like IB is also like international baccalaureate. It's like the international curriculum So I think like when you apply to like US, they see that it's like, yay, that's really good. But I mean, like for Canada, it's probably like that. Yeah, they probably don't care about APs at all.
They don't. For Waterloo, they won't even ask you for it on your application. They don't care. You know.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think
stick
we
it up on
answered
here.
almost about everything, but one last thing. What is the average total cost? So including tuition fees, books, residence. I know you guys are cringing at the
Oh,
cost right
God,
now. What's the
It's too much. It's too much. Oh my gosh.
Can I at least deduct
What
OSAP
is
from that amount?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
right.
okay, so like, okay, so for other programs it's less. Engineering, it's more. You may ask why more, because it's harder to teach. More resources are needed, right? So engineering, $16,000 for tuition alone. I'm sure was it around the same?
16? No,
16.
I don't. No, I think mine was like 12,000 ish because out of
Mine was
pocket I
16.
paid.
Mine was like 15, 16.
Are you taking 16 after OSAP? Like,
I didn't get any OSAP.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
So I think, for me out of pocket, I paid 5,000 for tuition. Housing was another like 3,000 something, and then like, food, God knows.
3,000?
I
Oh
live
my
right.
gosh, bro.
Low compared to
Waterloo, all right?
Dude, I'm paying way more than you. Okay.
Yo,
I'm paying $16,000 for tuition, and for housing, like my housing is like food included, is another $16,000.
Seriously?
That's a lot.
Yeah. So it's like
Bloody hell.
$32K for this year.
If you look at the average like tuition in like U of T and Waterloo, like the average for each program, it's like 10K. It's not like
a lot
16K.
Hold on, Miles.
Yeah.
When you say 16,000, do you mean for both of your terms or only one
Both my
term?
terms.
Okay, all right. That makes a lot more sense then. Okay, because the
Yeah.
5K I paid out of pocket was for one term.
No, I'm talking about the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how long is the entire term? It's like a year, half a year or something.
4 months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm paying like
And there's two of
$1,000 a
them.
month. It's
So
yeah.
So 8
Okay.
months, 32K. It's expensive.
Oh.
I mean, if you have OSAP, it'll help you out.
Yeah.
But
That's expensive.
yeah.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
Thankfully, like I get food paid for, but like you kind of get tired of the residence food after a while, and like you kind of start eating out, and that's even more expensive. So
Yeah, I think for me, co-op does cover a good amount of my expenses.
Yeah, I
like
think you get co-op.
rent next term for me, like that's covered from what I earned this term. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be
All right.
poor until third year. After third
Mhm.
year, until I get to do my co-op.
All right, I guess it's time to wrap it up. That is going to be the end of Spotlight Pathways Day 1. Thank you to everyone who came today, and we hope that you learned a lot from our guests today. Thank you, Miles and Jason, for joining us today and speaking to over 70 students. As per tradition, now in our webinars, if you would like to connect with each other on LinkedIn, specifically to Jason and Miles, drop your links down below and we'll stay in touch. If you're looking for more opportunities such as today, you might have seen on our registration form that there are 3 more days of Spotlight Pathways. Day 2 is on Tuesday, April 14th, featuring computer science students, once again from Waterloo and U of T. Day 3 is on Thursday, April 16th, featuring business students from Queen's Commerce and Western Ivy. Finally, Day 4 is on Tuesday, April 21st, featuring medical students from McMaster Health Sciences and Western Medical Sciences. If you still want to sign up, just register again on the link in our Instagram bio. Lastly, remember to check out our podcast, the Kaizen Project on YouTube and Spotify. We want to thank everyone again for coming today. Stay tuned and stay safe. We hope to see you all again soon. All right. Bye-bye.